Hello, everyone. Welcome to our next session of Meet the Members of Empower Africa. I'm excited and honored to host this terrific podcast. My name is Shai Bernstein. I'm VP of Business Development and Partnerships at Empower Africa. And as you can see, we're doing more and more of these, and we're having a recording that we're sharing every day with our network at Empower Africa. We already have over 2,300 members who joined us in the past month, and of course, on our social media. Before I present our distinguished guest, I just want to, for those of us who are joining us for the first time, Empower Africa is a business community with a mission to drive investment, trade, and job creation in Africa. We believe in trade over aid and that business is the best way to grow, build, and create sustainable and scalable solutions. We believe in bringing good people together and in the power of synergy. So our goal is to create the connections, optimize the communication, and maximize the collaboration that can be done. Our business community brings together entrepreneurs, nonprofits, investors, SMEs, banks, VCs, and so on, multinational enterprises, government officials, and so on, everyone to one table so that we can help the communication and collaboration and drive investment, trade, and job creation in Africa. Speaking of bringing good people together, it's my pleasure and honor to welcome Dr. Aliza Inbal, founding director of the Pears Program for Global Innovation. Aliza, thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Okay, great. So tell us a bit about yourself, Aliza.
Okay, I'm the founding director of the Pears Program for Global Innovation. And just to explain a little bit about what that is, it's an organization that I founded about 12 years ago with the purpose of building bridges between Israel's innovation ecosystem and innovation ecosystems in low and middle income countries.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. And can you share some examples of things you've been working on over the past decade or so?
Sure. So the original premise came from a question. And the question was, what can Israel do to have a greater contribution to addressing the challenges of developing countries? And my background is actually not a trade background, it's an aid background.
Right.
Before I did this, I worked in the World Bank for many years. And then before that, I was a diplomat. I served in Kinshasa for several years and worked on different types of aid programs in the Middle East. I was responsible for all of Israel's development cooperation with Jordan, Palestine, and Egypt during the Oslo process, when there was still cooperation between all of our countries.
Right.
And at some point in time, I was hired as part of a research fellowship to answer that question of what can Israel do in order to have a greater contribution on global development. Mm. And it seemed really clear to me, first of all, that the value proposition you talk about trade, not aid, is what we have to be looking at, and that the private sector is the greatest driver possible of human development. Mm-hmm. And second of all, that Israel, with its really astounding capacity for innovation, and innovation also in resource poor settings and under huge constraints and challenges, right. That if it was going to make a contribution to the SDGs and to the SDGs in low and middle income countries, it would have to be through technology and through innovation. Right. And so we started this program. And for most of the time that we've been active, we've been working primarily with Israeli companies and startups that want to innovate for challenges of low and middle income countries, and helping them figure out what the needs are, find partners on the ground, and develop and work on developing and commercializing solutions. And more recently, we've come to the realization, I think things have changed a lot in the past 10 years. And one of the things that have changed is this amazing explosion of talent and innovation right. within a lot of African countries. Mm-hmm. And so it became less and less relevant to look at Israel in innovating for Africa, and became much more relevant to think about, well, how can we work together to innovate for common solutions?
Yeah.
And so that's what our program does now, is we work with, we try to connect with different innovation actors in the ecosystems of the various African countries where we work. Primarily where we've worked up until now have been Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda are the countries that we've had the most work with. And try to find ways to have our innovation ecosystem connect with innovators and innovation support organizations in Africa in order to try to innovate in ways that have meaningful impact on people's lives.
Wow, fantastic. That's amazing. It's quite a mission. And I actually, throughout the past year or two, I've been engaged and involved and met with a number of members of the team of the Pears Program. And it's fantastic. I know there's a project of the smallholder farmers in Ethiopia that they're working on currently. Really, really, really encouraging stuff. Wonderful. So is there anyone, who would the Pears Program be interested in meeting and connecting with within the Empower Africa business community and in general?
I think that we're most interested in connecting with organizations that support innovators in Africa. So we have a number of programs already where, for example, we do mentorship through local organizations of startups that different accelerators in various countries. We work with MEST, we work with InnoHub in Ghana as well, in order to connect between Israeli CTOs, Israeli technology experts, and startups in various African countries which need that sort of expert technology mentorship, which we can provide. I think that it's very clear to us that we can't advise or support African startups in understanding how to work within the African context because they know better than we do. What Israel does have is it has a huge amount of technology innovation expertise that is not always available everywhere in Africa. And we'd like to find more ways to connect between that expertise and innovators in different emerging markets in Africa.
Fantastic. That's great. By the way, I have at least one organization in mind that we'll take it offline and discuss, because I'm happy to, if you don't know them already, to connect you to them. Okay, wonderful. Great. It's fantastic. Before we wrap it up, as you know, I always like to ask our guests to share a saying or quote or thought that they have that they, that inspires them, that they believe in. So please, Aliza, share with us.
So I hate to admit it, but when you told me in advance, the first thing I thought of was actually quoting myself. So if everyone can excuse me for the extreme hubris and that is involved in choosing your own quote as your favorite quote, it comes from an interview that was once done with me about innovation, or what is the secret to being a good innovator. And it was something that my answer there is something that I reflect on a lot, because I think that what's really interesting about successful innovators is that they have to hold two capacities that are totally contradictory in the same place. And what I mean by that is that successful innovation comes from having a vision and believing really strongly, no matter how many people tell you that that vision doesn't make sense and your solution will never work, and so on and so forth, believing strongly enough in it that you're able to push forward regardless of all of these people telling you that it won't work. And the truth is that pretty much every excellent idea out there was first met with people saying it won't work, because it was obvious to begin with that it would work, someone would have already done it. So on the one hand, innovators need that amazing capacity to just say, I believe in this and I'm going forward. And it's true of innovators, it's true of entrepreneurs, it's true. But on the other hand, pretty much no company, no innovation, no startup, no entrepreneurial endeavor on its starting day is what you end up with. And that every successful company and every successful startup has to go through a lot of pivots of trying something out, learning what isn't working about it, and then changing. And so most usually, whatever the idea it is that your company or that your your product starts with is almost never what it ends up with. And the magic of innovation or of entrepreneurship is the magic which says, is knowing when you're supposed to say, I'm not listening to everyone else and I believe in my way. And knowing when, on the other hand, you have to listen to everyone else and you have to know when to pivot. And I don't know how it's done. Wow. But I feel that like that's something which inspires me with the innovators and the entrepreneurs I work with, is that unbelievable capacity to know when to hold it and know when to fold it. And there I've now quoted Kenny Rogers.
Fantastic. Love it. I love it. That's great. That's great. It's fantastic. It actually also connects in my mind to the famous Jewish quote of a famous rabbi, Israel from Salanter, who says that every day somebody should have two notes in his pocket. In one pocket, it says that Bishvili nivra olam, the world has been created, the world is my oyster, the world is created for me. And on the other pocket, it says, Vanochi afar va'efer, I'm just a speck in the universe, And so it's that balance of, daring and, going great. And then at the same time, knowing how I need to pivot or learn from other people and so on. Anyway, loved it. Fantastic.
Audacity and humility.
Audacity and humility. Love it. Okay, Aliza, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll chat offline. Stay safe and healthy. Okay. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.